So you probably hear this a lot. Probably the biggest time savings that you can have on a stage is transitions. And that's making your transitions as fast as possible. And that doesn't really necessarily mean moving the gun fast. What it means is exiting or starting your transition as early as possible and shooting that first shot as you're entering the new target as early as possible. That's where you gain efficiency. That's where we talk about efficiency. So this is a drill that's in one of Ben Steger's books. You may have seen this, but I'm going to go ahead and work on it a little bit and demonstrate it for you. Fucking planes. But basically, so it's a set of 2 drills, and then you can combine the 2. So there's transition exit, transition entry, and then basically just combining the 2 into a full transition. So the first one is transition exit. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to start with your gun pointed at one target at a spot, and then on the beep you're going to transition the gun and shoot one shot on the second target. And basically what you're trying to do is, that's transition entry, is you're trying to shoot that first shot on the second target, the target that you're transitioning onto. You're trying to shoot as soon as possible, so with as minimal amount of sight picture confirmation needed to make the shot. So at this distance, it's going to be just a basic flash of the red dot. So I'm going to move my eyes to a spot, and as soon as I see any color around that spot, I'm going to fire. And that's should be enough to get me A zone hits. Then the next step is to do transition exits. So it's the opposite. So I'm going to stay pointed at the target, and on the beep, I'm going to fire and transition the shot as soon as possible. So again, as soon as I fire, and I'm looking for cues. So it could either be, you can cue on the trigger brake. So your mental cue to start the transition is as you feel the trigger braking, or it could be visual, where as soon as you see the sight start to lift, that's when you transition. There's some pros and cons to each, but I would probably recommend that you experiment with both and see which one yields the best results. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate, and then we'll do a little bit of wrap up. So that was just a flash. Again. That was a little too slow, too much confirmation there. Okay. So that's transition exit. It's a very simple drill, minimal rounds, 1 shot per string. And again, you're just trying to experiment with the level of sight picture that you need to get that shot in the A zone on that target. What you may want to do is to progress is fire 2 shots. So it kind of like simulated like you would do in a match. So transition and fire 2 shots. So I'll do that right now. So now we'll do transition exit. This you can do, again, 2 shots, but I would recommend, since you want to break it down to its smallest part so that you can really focus on that cue to start your exit, I would say that you fire 1 shot and exit. So let's do it. Okay, so that's transition exit. And again, your focus on that part of the drill is either cueing on the trigger or cueing on the sights lifting. I was cueing on the trigger. So as soon as I felt the trigger break, I started to move my eyes and my gun followed. So now what I'll do is I'll combine the two, is I'm gonna fire, I'm gonna actually do 2 shots on each, just like on a real drill. So let's look at the time there. So they were all alphas, which they should be. I'm at like maybe 5 yards max. And so my first shot was not captured because I shot it too fast. I was probably within the, like the beep was still going off when I fired the shot. But the total of the 3 shots that it picked up, the first shot was 0.48, which was my second shot on the first target. The transition was 32, and then the second shot was 20. So it's kind of warm today. My iPhone overheated there, so I kind of got a break in the video. But what I was basically I was wrapping up the transition entry and exit, and as you can see at the end, I can kind of combine the two and just tested things and see how they were going. So I fired 2 shots on each, just a basic transition drill. If you want, you can transition back to the first target if you want to add an additional transition. But again, this is a very efficient and effective drill for training transition efficiency. And again, that's exiting the transition as soon as possible. So cueing in, like your mental cue is either visual, right, where your sights are lifting and you start to transition out, or it's based on feel, tactile cue, which is the trigger break, which is what I was doing. And then on the entry, it's basically you move your eyes ahead of the gun to a spot, and depending on the distance and the difficulty of the target, as soon as you have an acceptable sight picture, you're firing. You're not allowing the sight to kind of just sit there and over confirm and dwell on what you're looking at before you fire. And that's again, that's the way to speed up your transitions. Moving the gun super fast or very aggressively, that usually slows things down, because what ends up happening is you end up most of the time you end up over transitioning. You have to come back and clean up your sight picture, and then that ends up costing you time. So again, easy drill to do, easy drill to set up, very efficient as far as ammo is concerned, but very effective as far as results. All right, thanks guys.